He wrote her letters every year, even after she married someone else. He used to write her name at the top of every page, always the same way, softly like he was afraid the ink might hurt her somehow. Dear Emma. That's how every letter began. He wrote one every year, on the same date, in the same quiet house, at the same old wooden desk by the window. Even after she left, even after she married someone else, even after she stopped writing back. His name was James Carter, and for a long time Emma Green was his whole world. They met in high school, small-town kids with big dreams. He wanted to be a writer. She wanted to travel. They spent summers on the lake, skipping rocks and talking about everything and nothing. He used to tell her, "When you find the place you love most, send me a postcard." She smiled and said, "Only if you promise to write me stories when I'm gone." He promised, and he meant it. When graduation came, Emma got accepted to a university out of state. James didn't. He stayed behind, working at the local paper, saving money, waiting, because she said she'd come back. But she didn't. Not really. She visited once that first year. Christmas break. They talked for hours, walked by the frozen lake, and held hands like nothing had changed. But it had. She had. She was studying art, meeting new people, building a life. And one of those people, a business student named Michael, would soon become her husband. James found out through a letter, a short, polite one. She said she was getting married, that she hoped he'd understand. He didn't. But he didn't hate her either. He just sat at his desk that night, opened his notebook, and began to write. Greater than, "Dear Emma, congratulations. I hope he makes you laugh. I hope he listens when you talk about art and remembers how you take your tea. I hope he loves you in all the ways I never got the chance to." He signed it, folded it neatly, and placed it in a box in his drawer. He never mailed it. The next year he wrote again, greater than, "Dear Emma, I saw the first snow today. It reminded me of you, the way you'd always try to catch flakes on your tongue. I still can't figure out why you laughed when they melted. Maybe I never will." Another letter, unsent, then another, and another, every year without fail. He wrote her on her birthday, on the day they met, and sometimes for no reason at all. When her first child was born, he found out through a mutual friend and wrote, "Dear Emma, I heard you have a daughter. I hope she inherits your laugh, the one that could make even the rain sound like music." He sealed the letter, placed it in the box, and tucked it away. Over time, the letters piled up. One box became two, then three. He never married, never stopped loving her, but he never tried to reach her again. The letters became his way of keeping her close without breaking the promise he made, to never interrupt her happiness. Years passed. The small town changed, but not much. The diner where they had their first date was still there. The lake still froze every winter. And James? He grew older, grayer. But every year on the same date, he'd sit by that window, take out his pen and begin, "Dear Emma." Then one winter morning, 38 years after that first letter, a knock came at his door. He opened it slowly. A woman stood there, gray hair tied back, a scarf around her neck, eyes the same soft green he remembered. Emma. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she smiled. "You still live here?" He nodded. "Some things don't change." She stepped inside, looking around the room. Her eyes landed on the old wooden desk, the stack of yellowed paper beside it. "Do you still write?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Every year." She blinked. "About what?" He looked at her for a long time, then said quietly, "You." Her eyes filled with tears. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope, old and creased. "I found this while moving," she said. "It was the only letter you ever sent." He frowned. "I never—" She smiled gently. "You did. Once. Back in college. You wrote, 'When you find the place you love most, send me a postcard.' I kept it." She took a shaky breath. "I wanted to send one back. I just didn't know how." They sat down, talked for hours, like they used to. She told him about her life, her kids, her husband, her travels. Her husband had passed away 2 years earlier. James listened quietly, nodding, smiling, eyes soft. When she asked if he'd ever married, he shook his head. Only in stories. She laughed sadly. You really never stopped writing, did you? He looked down at the box beside the desk. I never stopped writing to you. She opened the box carefully, eyes widening as she saw hundreds of envelopes, neatly stacked, each labeled by year. Her hands trembled as she picked one up from 1996. She opened it, read a few lines, and covered her mouth, tears falling silently. James, you kept them all? He smiled gently. Every word was meant for you. Even if you never read them, they sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that only two people who've loved and lost can share. Then Emma whispered, Can I take them? He hesitated, then nodded. They were always yours. She gathered the letters carefully, her fingers trembling, as she held decades of words written just for her. Before she left, she turned at the door. James! He looked up. She smiled softly. Thank you for not forgetting me. He smiled back. Thank you for giving me something worth remembering. That was the last time he saw her. A few months later, he passed away peacefully at home, at the same desk, pen still in hand. When Emma received the news, she opened the last letter from the box. The date on it was just 3 days before he died. It read, Dear Emma, I don't know if you'll ever read these letters, but if you do, I hope you know they were never about holding on. They were about letting go, gently. Love always, James. Years later, when Emma passed away, her daughter found a box beside her bed. Inside were hundreds of old letters, each one beginning the same way. Dear Emma, and on top of them, a single envelope addressed in shaky handwriting. Return to sender. Inside, a note written in her mother's handwriting. I finally got my postcard, James, and I'm sending it from the place I love most. He wrote her letters every year, not to remind her of what was lost, but to keep alive the love that never truly left. Because sometimes, the words we never send are the ones that keep us alive the longest.